What grocery shopping was like in the 50s and 60s? Have you ever wondered what grocery shopping was like for our grandparents in the good old days? From tiny limited dry goods stores to the rise of massive supermarkets, we're about to explore the pivotal milestones that shaped how we buy food even today. What truly transformed so dramatically to create the convenience we now take for granted? And what has remained, becoming an indispensable part of the cherished memories for those who lived through those decades? Get ready for a journey filled with nostalgia. Life before supermarkets, a world we've lost. Before the 1930s, grocery shopping in America was an entirely different and far less convenient experience than it is today. Just imagine, on an early morning, homemakers couldn't simply grab a list and push a cart down spacious aisles to find everything they needed. Instead, a grocery trip was a literal journey through various specialized shops, each serving a unique category of necessities. Shopping before the 1930s, the era of specialty shops. In rural communities, folks often relied on small general stores. These shops sold a bit of everything, from food to general merchandise, but usually in limited quantities. You might find a few essential dry goods, but certainly not the abundance we're accustomed to today. Fresh produce and meats were typically grown or raised right on local family farms. During winter, these products would be preserved by canning, a common technique to make food last longer, showcasing a heavy reliance on local supply and the seasonality of food. This meant rural family pantries would be filled with homemade canned goods, a symbol of self-sufficiency and the ability to stock up. However, the picture in urban areas was a bit more complex and time-consuming. To get enough food for the family, shoppers had to visit multiple specialty stores. You'd head to the butcher shop for fresh meat, where the butcher would cut each piece to the customer's exact request. Then, you'd stop by the bakery for fragrant, fresh-baked bread. And finally, it was off to the dry goods store for staples like flour, sugar, or coffee. This demanded a lot of time and effort, completely unlike filling a cart in a single shopping trip, as we do now. My mother used to say, back then, milk had to be delivered to our door every day, and meat we had to buy from the butcher. All sorts of things. You could still buy groceries, but there wasn't one place where you could go and load up a cart with enough groceries for the whole week. Just imagine the inconvenience. Without large refrigerators or efficient distribution systems, access to fresh food was a daily challenge. Most products in these stores were kept behind the counter. Customers would hand their shopping list to a clerk, who would then manually retrieve the requested items from the shelves. Loose items like flour, sugar, and coffee weren't prepackaged. Instead, they would be weighed and packaged individually for each customer on the spot. Picture the weight as every single item had to be carefully weighed and wrapped, all while you had a dozen other household chores to do. Furthermore, because refrigeration technology wasn't widely available, access to perishable items was significantly limited. Fresh meat was bought directly from the butcher, who would cut each piece to the customer's request. Fresh milk was also delivered to homes daily by a milkman, a familiar sight of milk trucks cruising through neighborhoods early in the morning. This was a lifestyle many today would find hard to imagine, with refrigerators and packaged products now an indispensable part of every household. My mother also shared about the variety in shopping methods. The grocery shopping style back then was that you'd go into a store, give the clerk a list of canned or dry goods, and they'd go into the back to get them for you if they had them. As for fruits, vegetables, and milk, you'd either buy them directly from a farm or from a pushcart vendor, who might pass through your neighborhood or not, or you'd buy them at an outdoor farmer's market. She even remembered that in the 90s in Baltimore, there were still horse-drawn fruit carts. A classic image, but a real shopping reality back then. This lack of convenience set the perfect stage for a revolution waiting to burst forth. The birth of the modern supermarket, King Kullen and the Revolution. And then everything changed completely in 1930 with the advent of the first modern supermarket. The pioneer of this revolution was Michael J. Kullen. He was a branch manager for the Kroger Grocery and Baking Company and possessed a groundbreaking vision for an entirely new type of food store, a model that would forever transform how we shop. Kullen presented his idea in a 6-page letter to John Bonham, vice president of Kroger. His proposal outlined a new store model focused on low prices, cash-only sales, and larger stores with ample parking. This was a bold and risky concept at the time, going against the prevailing traditional stores that were small and often extended credit to regular customers. However, this groundbreaking idea was overlooked by Kroger, perhaps because they didn't foresee its immense potential or feared the financial risks of investing in an unprecedented model. But Michael J. Kullen was not easily discouraged. With unwavering faith in his vision, he resigned from Kroger and moved with his wife and children to Long Island. In Jamaica, Queens, on August 4, 1930, he personally brought his idea to fruition by opening his own store, named King Kullen. This first King Kullen store adhered strictly to Kullen's original vision, being 10 times larger than the A&P, Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company, stores of the era, with ample space for merchandise display and convenient parking for customers. This event wasn't just the opening of a new store. It marked the birth of the first supermarket in the United States, a historical moment that shaped the retail industry. King Kullen's success was resounding and swift. Within 6 years of opening, King Kullen boasted 15 locations, proving that Kullen's vision was not only feasible but incredibly popular. The company continued to innovate and expand, laying the groundwork for the supermarket model we're familiar with. What's truly amazing is that to this day, King Kullen still operates with 27 locations in New York State, a testament to the enduring success and groundbreaking nature of this model. Kullen's model established the formula for the modern supermarket. This formula included separate departments, self-service, discount pricing, chain store marketing, and large volume dealings. These are elements we take for granted in supermarkets today, but at the time, they were revolutionary innovations, helping to reduce labor costs and increase sales. It's important to note that the concept of self-service was pioneered by Clarence Saunders with his Piggly Wiggly store back in 1916. However, it was Kullen who truly synthesized these elements into a complete and widely successful supermarket model, making self-service the industry standard. The 1950s and 1960s marked the golden age for the supermarket concept. After World War II, America entered an unprecedented period of economic prosperity, with disposable income rising for many families, allowing them to spend more on goods, including food from supermarkets. Simultaneously, car ownership rapidly increased in the 1950s, making it easier for consumers to travel to larger stores like supermarkets, where they could buy in bulk and transport purchases home conveniently, no longer dependent on walking or public transport with numerous heavy bags. The boom of suburbanization also played a crucial role, as supermarkets were strategically located, often on spacious plots with large parking lots, to serve the growing suburban population seeking a more convenient lifestyle. The growth of supermarkets also went hand in hand with other technological advancements in the 1950s. This was a decade where science and technology saw extraordinary milestones, from microchips and modems to programmable computers. Although not directly related to supermarkets, these advancements showcased a rapidly evolving society, paving the way for changes in every sector, including retail and logistics. Credit cards, for instance, were introduced in 1950 with Diners Club and American Express in 1958, marking the beginning of a new era in payment methods, even if not yet widespread in grocery stores at the time. Nevertheless, their appearance signaled a trend towards fewer cash transactions and greater convenience in the future. King Kullen paved the way for a surge of other supermarket chains to thrive. Companies like A&P quickly recognized this trend and began building larger stores, gradually phasing out their smaller ones. By 1950, A&P had become the nation's largest grocery retailer, with 4,000 supermarkets and 500 smaller stores. If a particular community didn't have an A&P, they were surely served by one of the many other supermarket chains that blossomed across the country at the time, such as Kroger, Safeway, or Grand Union. On the other hand, in the 1950s, food spending accounted for roughly 15% of a typical household's income. Today, that number is closer to just 7%. While this figure may have changed due to inflation and other economic factors, it reflects the increased affordability of food and the convenience that supermarkets brought. Food, clothing, and electronics became cheaper, allowing people to live more comfortably and prosperously, a crucial part of the post-war American dream. However, there were also mixed opinions about the rise of supermarkets. Some argued that the booming growth of supermarkets led to the demise of small farms and local shops, forcing people to buy from large corporations, thus weakening local economies. They worried that this allowed giant corporations to gouge people on necessities due to a lack of competition and choices. Nevertheless, the majority of Americans at the time embraced supermarkets as a symbol of convenience and abundance, a sign of progress and modern living. What was the very first grocery store your family regularly visited? Share your memories in the comments below. The 1950s and 60s supermarket shopping experience. Key characteristics. Let's take a closer look at the typical supermarket shopping experience in the 1950s and 60s. The first thing you might notice is that their size was significantly smaller compared to today's supermarkets. While a modern supermarket often spans 50,000 square feet or more and carries tens of thousands of items, a store from that era might only have been about 15,000 to 20,000 square feet, selling around 4,000 items. Some stores were even smaller, ranging from 2,000 to 10,000 square feet depending on location and service scope. This means the selling area was only about a third of the supercenters or hypermarkets we're familiar with today. Store size and layout. Older stores primarily focused on selling groceries and dry goods. You wouldn't find many extra services like bank branches, pharmacies, dry cleaners, or a Starbucks counter right inside the supermarket as you do today. A supermarket, in its true sense, was a place to buy food and basic household necessities. However, to attract busy moms, the household pillars with countless chores, some stores innovated by combining with other convenient services like a lunch counter or a laundromat. This allowed women to complete 2 household tasks in one trip, a significant convenience at the time, saving their precious time. Despite being smaller, the overall layout of a 1950s supermarket was quite similar to today's. Products were arranged by category with separate sections for produce, meat, and dairy. You would still see organized aisles with shelves, though they might be narrower and hold fewer items. These stores compensated for their limited size with elaborate displays, large lettering, and bright, vibrant colors to grab shoppers' attention and make the space feel more lively. The interior style of the 1950s was known as retro style, a colorful and optimistic aesthetic that reflected the post-war spirit. It was an explosion of dazzling billboards, vibrant pop music, and creative pop art. Colors in supermarkets often took on an American diner palette with neon and bubblegum hues, bright, bold colors like pink, turquoise, and bright red, creating a cheerful, modern feel. Another option was to use more subdued, yet still characteristic shades of the decade, such as beige, dark brown, emerald green, and olive green. Floors were typically vinyl, a popular, durable, and easy-to-clean choice back then, often laid in checkerboard or geometric patterns. Walls might be adorned with large, bold wallpaper patterns or product advertisement murals. These elements created a distinct retro-style shopping space, making a trip to the supermarket not just about buying groceries, but a unique, colorful experience in itself. Convenience and product innovations. One of the revolutionary innovations in the shopping experience was the widespread adoption of self-service systems. Although Clarence Saunders pioneered this with the first self-service Piggly Wiggly store in 1916, it wasn't until the 1950s and 1960s that this format truly became the norm and spread nationwide. Instead of dictating a list to a clerk behind the counter, shoppers could now walk the aisles themselves, pick out items firsthand, and inspect products before purchasing. This not only increased customer autonomy and choice, but also allowed stores to serve more customers with fewer staff, thereby reducing costs and prices. The invention of the shopping cart was another massive leap that completely transformed how we shop. Before then, shoppers could only use baskets and were limited by the amount of goods they could carry. This meant grocery trips had to be more frequent or involved buying fewer items each time. Shopping carts completely changed the game, allowing people to buy more groceries at once, often enough for a whole week or even longer. This shift forced stores to make infrastructure adjustments, including building longer checkout lanes and wider aisles to accommodate this new shopping style, where customers pushed carts overflowing with goods. By 1957, one store in Florida even had small cars for customers to drive along the counters, a sign of continuous innovation to improve the shopping experience. Packaging technology also underwent a significant transformation during this period. Cellophane wrap, a transparent packaging material invented in the mid-1950s, revolutionized how meat was sold. Customers no longer had to wait for a butcher to cut each piece of meat to order and wrap it in paper. Instead, meat was pre-packaged in cellophane, price-labeled, and displayed on cold shelves, saving time, ensuring better hygiene, and allowing customers to choose their preferred cut themselves. The same applied to produce, helping to keep it cleaner, protected from external elements like insects, and extending its shelf life. Frozen foods became incredibly popular in the 1950s. Although the method of freezing food was invented in 1924 by Clarence Birdseye, it wasn't until the 50s that it truly boomed and became an essential part of every family's kitchen. Demand for products like frozen TV dinners, convenient pre-packaged meals for quick reheating, was so high that by 1954, more and more frozen products filled supermarket aisles, indicating a major shift in eating habits and the public's desire for convenience. Canned goods were also a hot item during this period. Against a backdrop of Cold War anxieties and the potential for global conflicts, people tended to stock non-perishable foods in family pantries. Canned options went far beyond typical beans and soups, including everything from asparagus to pineapple, tuna, stews, and countless other dishes, all ready for immediate use or when needed. The convenience and long-term storage capability of frozen and canned foods fit perfectly with the modernizing lifestyle, as women increasingly joined the workforce and had less time for cooking. However, compared to today, product variety in 1950s and 60s supermarkets was quite limited. My father used to say, when I was a kid, there was just apple. I remember it felt so strange back then that you could buy a red apple or a green apple. Today, we can choose from dozens of apple varieties like Honeycrisp, Gala, Braeburn, Jonagold, Ambrosia, Fuji, Granny Smith, and more, plus organic options. Supermarkets back then didn't prioritize local products or specialty varieties, but rather focused on the lowest cost items to optimize profits and offer affordable prices to the mass consumer. I remember that even 40 years ago, meaning the 1980s, the abundance and variety in American supermarkets made defectors from the Soviet Union, where food supplies were scarce, think it was propaganda staged for them. Surely you can't live like this every day. This highlights the difference in perception and expectation of food abundance between cultures and economic systems. Checkout process and store employees. The checkout process at supermarkets back then also differed significantly from today's. Before barcodes came into existence in 1974, store employees had to manually affix price labels to each individual product. This demanded a great deal of time and effort from staff, not only in labeling but also in memorizing the prices of thousands of different items. Whenever prices changed, all products on the shelves had to be relabeled. To speed up checkout and reduce customer waiting times, stores began installing conveyor belts in the 1950s, which are still used today. Even so, self-checkout systems, a familiar feature of modern supermarkets, had yet to exist. Customer service was a special highlight during this era, a far cry from the typical experience today. Store employees wore neat uniforms, demonstrating professionalism and respect for customers. Men often wore ties and aprons, while women wore uniform dresses such as Piggly Wiggly's black attire with a ruffled white apron. After bagging groceries, employees would often push shopping carts out to customers' cars, a courteous and helpful gesture, especially for those buying a lot. To thank them for their dedication, customers might offer a small tip, about a quarter, a tradition of gratitude. A photo from 1945 even shows checkout clerks were not allowed to sit, and wooden crates were placed at the exit for customers to load their purchased groceries into and take home, before shopping carts became truly widespread. Customers' shopping style was also very distinctive and different from today. In the 1960s, housewives often went grocery shopping with their hair in rollers and dressed casually as if at home, but still very neat and tidy. This image is hard to find in modern times. A form of customer loyalty program that was incredibly popular back then was green stamps. This program, founded by Sperry and Hutchinson in 1896, allowed shoppers to collect stamps at their local grocery store every time they made a purchase and redeem them for gifts from the S&H catalog. This was a precursor to today's coupons and loyalty programs, encouraging customer faithfulness. My best friend said, "Your mom had 7 kids, so she was always busy, or totally forgot, and never pasted her stamps. So he had to lick and stick them all the way to Winn-Dixie." Those S&H catalogs were a source of inspiration for many families where they dreamed of household gifts, toys, or small electronics after accumulating enough stamps. Supermarkets of that era became an integral part of the American dream. The peaceful suburban life of Americans in the 1950s, with their model homes, lush gardens, and shiny new cars, was intrinsically linked to the image of the supermarket playing a central role in providing daily necessities. It was a symbol of convenience, prosperity, and modern living. The shift in the shopping experience wasn't just about the stores, but also about the role of the salesperson. With the advent of self-service supermarkets, clerks no longer had to run around, retrieving each item for customers. Instead, their roles gradually shifted to becoming bookkeepers, stenographers, typists, or more importantly, maintainers of order, stockers of shelves, and assistants to customers when needed. The technological advancements of the 1950s, while not always directly linked to supermarkets, created a general backdrop of innovation and development. For instance, the microchip emerged in 1958, paving the way for the later electronic revolution. The first programmable computer, EDSAC, was completed in 1950, signaling an era of automation and data processing. Mass-produced modems appeared to serve military air defense systems. Fiber optics were also successfully developed in the 1950s. Although these technologies weren't directly present in supermarkets as barcode scanners or advanced inventory management systems, they embodied the innovative spirit of the era, contributing to the overall development of infrastructure and logistics, thereby indirectly supporting the retail industry's growth and modernization. American Express's first use of the term credit card in 1958 also foreshadowed a shift in payment methods, though it would take many decades for credit cards to become common in grocery stores. What about the old-fashioned shopping experience surprised you the most? Is there any detail that makes you wish you could turn back time? Share it in the comments below. Names that made history: supermarket chains and their legacies. The 1950s and 1960s were not only a boom period for supermarkets, but also a golden age for many giant grocery store chains, names that shaped the shopping habits of millions of Americans. Although some no longer exist, their legacies and memories live on in the hearts of generations who grew up with them. The big players. Let's start with a true giant of that era, A&P, or the Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company. By 1950, A&P proudly stood as the largest grocery retailer in America, with a vast network of 4,000 supermarkets and an additional 500 smaller stores. This company quickly caught on to the modern supermarket trend after King Kullen's emergence, focusing on building larger stores and gradually phasing out smaller ones, except in densely populated urban areas where space was limited. A&P was once a symbol of convenience and affordability, serving nearly every community across America, from small towns to large cities. However, even giants can fall when they fail to adapt in time. A&P ultimately became a casualty of the relentless evolution within the retail industry. Facing competitors who continually opened larger, more modern locations, A&P stores gradually became small and outdated, losing their appeal. While many rivals shifted their focus to growing suburban areas, building spacious supermarkets with convenient parking, numerous A&P locations struggled to survive in declining urban centers, where purchasing power was dwindling. After its second bankruptcy within 5 years in 2015, Most of A&P's remaining stores were sold off to other companies. By Thanksgiving 2015, all A&P stores had permanently closed, ending a glorious era for one of America's most iconic grocery retailers. Next up is Piggly Wiggly, a unique and iconic name. Founded by Clarence Saunders in 1916 in Memphis, Tennessee, Piggly Wiggly went down in history as the first self-service grocery store in the United States. This self-service model completely changed how people shopped, allowing customers to freely choose products without needing a clerk's assistance, a revolution in buyer-seller interaction. When asked about the company's unusual name, Clarence Saunders simply gave a witty reply. So people will ask me that very question. Piggly Wiggly expanded throughout the Southeast and Midwest United States, and thankfully, the chain still has over 500 active stores today, primarily operating as franchises, upholding its legacy. Kroger is another name that simply must be mentioned when discussing American supermarket history. The first Kroger store opened in 1883 when founder Barney Kroger invested his entire life savings of $372 to open a single grocery store in downtown Cincinnati. With a simple yet powerful motto reflecting a commitment to quality, be particular. Never sell anything you would not want yourself. Kroger built a food empire. Today, the Kroger Company is the nation's largest grocery retailer, with over 1,200 stores in 16 states across the South, Southeast, and Midwest United States, becoming one of the leading supermarket chains, continually growing and adapting with the times. Other memorable names? Beyond these giants, many other supermarket chains are etched into the memories of Americans, each name carrying its own story and distinctive character. Red Owl started in the 1920s as a coal dealer in Rochester, Minnesota. The company later grew into a chain with 400 grocery stores in towns and cities across the Midwest. Red Owl's distinctive Red Owl logo became a familiar sight, even appearing in popular films and TV shows like A Serious Man, Fargo, and The Mary Tyler Moore Show, proving its cultural impact. Although most have ceased operations, an original franchise, Mason Brothers' Red Owl, is still active in Green Bay, Wisconsin, preserving a piece of this chain's memory. Big Bear opened its first store in Columbus, Ohio in 1933. This initial store was famous for having a live bear kept right outside the main entrance, and other bears were also brought to new store openings to attract customers. Big Bear was not just a shopping destination, it was an attraction. It was the first self-service supermarket in the Midwest, and also the first supermarket to use a cashier-operated conveyor belt at the checkout counter, a major innovation that helped increase service speed. Grand Union, founded in Pennsylvania in 1872, was once one of the largest grocery chains in the country, serving many states in the Northeast. The company's mascot was Abraham Lincoln, and original stores sometimes featured a costumed Lincoln greeting customers, adding a unique touch. Although it ceased operations in 2013, the brand has recently been revived with 11 new stores between New York and Vermont, demonstrating the enduring vitality of a historical name. Alpha Beta was a popular supermarket chain established in Pomona, California in 1917, known for arranging products alphabetically, making it easy for customers to find what they needed. Food Fair, which started in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania in the late 1920s, rapidly grew to 270 stores by 1957 and eventually peaked with over 500 locations. Many Food Fair stores were converted into Pantry Pride in the early 1970s. Jitney Jungle was a supermarket chain that began in Jackson, Mississippi in 1919 and gradually expanded throughout the South, with stores reaching as far as Florida. The company eventually had 100 stores, but later faced management difficulties and was acquired by Winn-Dixie in 2000. Eagle Food Centers, originating in Davenport, Iowa in 1893, expanded into Wisconsin, Indiana, and Illinois. However, the company couldn't compete with larger chains like Hy-Vee, Walmart, and Kroger, and filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 2000, ceasing all operations by 2003. Want more content like this? A simple yes in the comments helps us know you're still here and loving it. Legacy and evolution to today. Although many old brands have vanished, the innovations of the 50s and 60s continue to shape the modern grocery retail industry we know today. The concept of convenience, which was the main driver bringing consumers to the one-stop shop model in the 1950s, remains a key factor in today's supermarket experience. Consumers are always looking for ways to save time and effort, and the retail industry is constantly striving to meet that demand. Fierce competition has led to supermarkets becoming ever larger, with a greater variety of products and services, transforming them into true one-stop shops. Now, you can find everything from fresh produce to pharmaceuticals, banking services, coffee shops, and even dining options right inside a massive supermarket. One of the significant in-store advancements was the advent of self-checkout systems in the late 20th century. These kiosks, allowing customers to bypass long lines to scan and pay for items themselves, added another layer of convenience for busy grocery retailers, though opinions on them remain divided. From tiny, limited stores where each shopping trip was a journey to multiple destinations, to the supermarket boom with convenient shopping carts and pre-packaged foods, the 50s and 60s were a golden era that completely reshaped how we experience grocery shopping. It was a time of bold innovations, economic growth, and profound cultural shifts. What made 1970s shopping malls unforgettable? The 1970s weren't just about disco balls and bell-bottoms. They were also the golden age of shopping malls. These weren't just places to buy things. They were buzzing social hubs where families, teens, and entire communities came together. Today, let's step back in time and rediscover what made 70s malls so unforgettable. The 70s context and the rise of shopping malls. The 1970s marked a period of profound shifts in population and lifestyle. One of the most pivotal and impactful factors was the massive migration to the suburbs. As a large number of Americans left crowded, sometimes decaying, big cities in search of a quieter, more spacious life in the suburbs, a new demand emerged. These new suburban communities needed centers for shopping, entertainment, and social interaction without having to trek back to downtown. And from this very need, giant indoor shopping malls began to sprout up like mushrooms, stretching across suburban areas all over the country. Their appearance not only met a vital need but also reshaped the face of these regions, becoming new architectural and cultural landmarks. The 70s weren't just a decade of demographic shifts, they were also a decade of booming new technology, music, and fashion. Early rudimentary computers began to appear, hinting at a digital future. Rock, disco, and funk music were dominating the charts and dance floors, bringing vibrant rhythms and fresh messages. Fashion, too, became bolder and more diverse than ever, reflecting the era's spirit of freedom and individuality. In this context, malls weren't just places to buy these new products. They were stages to display, experience, and immerse oneself in these cultural currents. They became microcosms, where all the prevailing trends in American society converged and were reflected. To understand the origins of the enclosed mall concept, we must return to the original vision of a brilliant architect. Southdale Center in Edina, Minnesota, completed in 1956, is widely recognized as America's first and oldest enclosed, air-conditioned shopping mall. This was a significant milestone, a breakthrough in retail design and urban planning. Before Southdale, shopping areas were often outdoor strips of stores, exposed to the elements and lacking a unified common space. Southdale changed all that, creating a fully controlled, comfortable environment year-round, regardless of rain, sun, or cold. The man behind this grand vision was Victor Gruen, a passionate and forward-thinking Austrian immigrant. Gruen wasn't just an architect designing stores and hallways, he envisioned the mall as a true public center, a new town square for modern times. In his imagination, people would come here not just to shop, but also to socialize, connect with the community, and participate in diverse community events. It was a vision that extended far beyond pure commercial function, aiming to create a vibrant space where people could find connection and fulfill their social needs. Gruen's vision was even bolder and more comprehensive. He imagined the mall providing essential city services, transforming it into a miniature administrative and cultural hub. Specifically, he wanted malls to have public libraries where people could seek knowledge and read in a comfortable environment. There would also be post offices for convenient mail and parcel services. And even further, Gruen envisioned these centers eventually including medical facilities for community healthcare, schools to educate the younger generation, and even residential areas so people could live right there, creating a self-contained, self-sufficient, and complete community. This was a revolutionary idea, a synthesis of commerce, culture, education, and daily life, all in a single space. It showed Gruen's aspiration to create places that were not only convenient, but also fostered community spirit and enhanced the quality of life. Although Victor Gruen's original idea for a comprehensive, multifunctional mall didn't evolve exactly as he had imagined, medical centers, schools, or residential areas didn't become standard for most malls, the 70s still saw a unique position for the shopping mall. This was a period when malls were still experimenting with and defining their role in American society. They still strived to be a true new town square, a place where people of all ages and backgrounds felt welcome and had reasons to visit, regardless of their shopping intent. It was a time before the 80s would see a strong boom and a greater focus on mass consumerism, when the main purpose of the mall would shift more explicitly towards encouraging shopping and consumption. Thus, the 70s represented a golden era of balance, where social and community elements were still very strong, hand in hand with the emerging commercial function. This created a distinct identity, hard to find in malls of later decades. This development was not merely an architectural or retail phenomenon, but a profound reflection of changing lifestyles and culture in a nation undergoing transformation. An iconic highlight that cannot be overlooked is the lava lamp. These lamps, with their slow, mesmerizing flow of liquid wax, created a characteristic hypnotic, psychedelic effect. They were often placed in gift shops, entertainment areas, or even relaxation zones, drawing eyes and creating a mystical, true to the 70s atmosphere. Additionally, macrame was a quintessential 70s craft, adding a bohemian touch to every home and public space. From intricately knotted plant hangers to elaborate wall tapestries with complex patterns, macrame brought softness, warmth, and a touch of wild, free beauty into malls. They reflected the era's preference for handmade products and natural materials. Carpeting was also widely used, not only bringing elegance and softness to the space, but also helping to reduce noise and create a cozier feel. With complex patterns and rich colors, carpeting often covered large areas, sometimes even covering nearly 40% of walls, creating a unique and personal decorating style. Finally, we cannot forget the familiar image of the landline phone. With its circular design, often made of brightly colored plastic or eye-catching metal casing, these phones were usually placed on small shelves in public areas or stores. They were not just a means of communication, but also a part of the interior design, a symbol of an era where personal connection was still very direct and tangible. All these architectural and interior elements together created a unique mall experience, a complete, inviting, and captivating world. Unique architecture and spaces, bringing nature indoors. One of the most striking and unforgettable characteristics of 70s malls was their unique architecture and design. Unlike modern designs that prioritize sales efficiency, the layout of malls during this era significantly prioritized common spaces. These areas were specially designed for people to freely gather, relax after hours of shopping, or simply socialize and chat. The main goal was to create a comfortable, cozy environment, a perfect refuge from harsh weather outside, whether it was the sweltering heat of summer or the biting cold of winter. These spaces weren't just hallways leading to stores, they were destinations in themselves, encouraging social interaction and fostering a sense of community. The biggest distinguishing feature was the philosophy of bringing the outdoors indoors. Designers back then made every effort to recreate the beauty and tranquility of nature right inside massive concrete structures. And indeed, if you ever visited a mall in the 70s, you'll vividly remember the sight of countless indoor trees and gardens. Lush greenery, from small potted plants to tall, soaring trees, were strategically placed throughout common areas, bringing a sense of freshness and serenity. They not only beautified the space but also acted as natural air purifiers, creating a pleasant and relaxing atmosphere. Beyond greenery, fountains were also an indispensable architectural element. With their gentle trickling sounds, these fountains were not just visual focal points, but also created a soothing ambiance, reducing ambient noise and fostering a sense of relaxation. They were often placed at the center of gathering areas, becoming spots where people would toss coins for wishes or simply sit, watch, and enjoy. Even more uniquely, some malls even featured indoor bird cages. Can you imagine the surprise and delight of encountering chirping birds, flying freely within a vast shopping space, bringing a magical and wild natural feel? This was truly an effort to create a multi-sensory environment, where sight, sound, and smell were all pleasantly stimulated. Amidst meticulously designed storefronts and unique cobblestone floors, some 70s mall hallways and areas possessed an antique charm, resembling car-free pedestrian streets of yesteryear. What was especially striking was that these spaces were often bathed in diffused sunlight from giant skylights overhead. These skylights not only provided abundant natural light, saving energy, but also created a soft, warm lighting effect, making the space feel more open and airy. It felt like you were strolling under a vast sky, yet perfectly protected from the elements. The combination of natural light, greenery, and rustic materials created a unique space, both modern and deeply connected to nature. Regarding interior colors and materials, the 70s were a golden age of boldness and creativity. The palette used was incredibly rich, bold, bright, and elegant, combining charm with distinct personality. There were no limits to creativity. The interior color scheme wasn't just limited to natural colors like earthy browns, deep greens, or burnt oranges, but also extended to vibrant rainbow shades and even striking acid neon colors. This combination created a space full of energy and character, reflecting the free spirit of the era. Diverse materials were also popular and widely used, bringing richness in texture and feel. We could see the presence of shiny metals, warm woods, flexible plastics in various shapes and colors, clear glass, soft leather, and natural stone. The combination of these materials not only created harmony but also showcased creativity in interior design. Furniture in malls and even in stores back then was often thoughtfully arranged, with a sleek and sometimes quirky appearance. Asymmetrical forms were favored, creating a break from convention and adding uniqueness. Cozy sofas and curved armchairs were popular choices, inviting customers to sit, relax, and enjoy the space. These chairs were not only comfortable but also small works of art, contributing to the overall aesthetic of the space. Entertainment and iconic stores. 70s malls were not just a mecca for shopping or social interaction, but also a fantastic entertainment destination where people of all ages could find joy. Malls became a focal point for movie theaters and eventually vibrant arcades. Let's talk about the arcade, an indispensable icon of the 70s and early 80s. You could easily hear the sounds of video games echoing throughout the mall. It was the ping of Pong, the chomp of Pac-Man, the gunshots of Space Invaders, and countless other electronic noises, all blending together to create a symphony of fun and healthy competition. These arcades with video games, pinball, and air hockey were often strategically placed opposite the food court. This made it convenient for young people after a full meal to immediately dive into virtual adventures or intense air hockey matches with friends. It was a place where skills were tested, friendships were strengthened, and memories were made. And we can't forget the delightful surprises at Spencer's Gifts, a chain of gift and novelty stores that amazed and delighted many. Spencer's Gifts was famous for its unique, sometimes humorous, sometimes quirky items, from art posters, home decor, to small toys and personal accessories. Stepping into Spencer's Gifts was like entering a magical world, where you always found something unexpected to take home or simply to explore. Additionally, the mall was a place to discover music. We would learn about new bands and music by admiring posters and display screens at record stores. These stores didn't just sell records, they were cultural spaces where fans could immerse themselves in the world of their favorite artists. Colorful album covers, large posters of rock, pop, or disco idols, and new music constantly playing created a vibrant and inspiring atmosphere, helping to shape the musical tastes of a generation. Life beyond shopping, a destination for all ages. 70s malls truly carried a special feeling, perceived as a magical wonderland. It wasn't merely a collection of stores, but a miniature world where everything seemed perfect, clean, safe, with fun stores and delicious food. This was an ideal space to escape the monotony of daily life and immerse oneself in an environment full of conveniences and entertainment. One of the most remarkable aspects of the mall's role in the 70s was the freedom for children. In an era where society tended to trust and encourage children's independence more, parents could drop off their kids at the mall and they could play freely all day. This might sound unbelievable today, but in the 70s, it was a common reality. Children and teenagers could wander through stores, visit the arcade, grab a snack at the food court, or simply hang out with friends without constant adult supervision. The mall became a safe, controlled playground where children learned to be self-reliant, make decisions, and explore the world around them. It was a symbol of community trust in a different culture compared to today. Another interesting cultural detail that many today might find surprising concerns smoking. In the 70s, regulations on public smoking were not as strict as they are now. Therefore, you would see that a large ashtray was placed right next to every bench inside the mall. This allowed customers to freely smoke while resting or waiting, creating a different atmosphere rarely seen today in enclosed public spaces. This small detail reflects a part of the lifestyle and social views on smoking during that period. The mall was also a true haven in the summer. For many families living in hot climates and without air conditioning at home, the mall was a wonderful place to go and enjoy the cool, comfortable air. With modern, at the time, air conditioning systems, the mall became a cool oasis where people could escape the stifling heat, comfortably stroll, shop, and be entertained without being affected by the outside temperature. This further enhanced the appeal and role of the mall as a multifunctional and essential public space. The hub of social life. 70s malls were truly a social phenomenon, a place whose role extended far beyond mere shopping. They were not just a consumer destination, but a true melting pot for all ages, races, and social classes, all converging in a common space. People came here for countless reasons, or sometimes for no specific reason at all, other than just to hang out at the mall. This shows how malls became an indispensable part of daily life, a place where people found connection, entertainment, and a sense of belonging. For those who grew up in the 70s, the mall held a special place in their hearts and memories. It quickly became the most important social center outside of school. This was where countless first experiences were formed and etched. For many young people, the mall was where they found their first jobs, whether it was working at a clothing store, an ice cream counter, or a movie theater. These jobs not only provided their first income, but also invaluable lessons about responsibility, customer service, and financial independence. Furthermore, the mall was also the ideal place for first dates. Young couples could stroll through stores, grab a snack at the food court, or catch a movie together at the mall's cinema. It was a safe and vibrant space, perfect for early crushes and budding romantic moments. In addition, for many teenagers, the freedom to roam the mall, away from direct parental supervision, was their first taste of independence. They could freely spend time away from family, wander through stores, or simply gather with friends, sharing stories, laughing, and building unforgettable memories. This was where they learned to make their own decisions, express their individuality, and build important social relationships outside the family and school circle. The mall became a playground of freedom, where youth could explore and experience life to the fullest. The appeal of 70s malls wasn't limited to a specific age group. It was a multi-generational destination, with diverse reasons for different age groups to visit. For teens to 20-year-olds, the mall was a world of discovery and social interaction. They came here to hang out with friends, catch up on the latest gossip, and sometimes simply to see and be seen. The arcade was an indispensable destination, where the sound of coins dropping, machines beeping, and excited shouts created a vibrant atmosphere. This was also a place to seek out the opposite sex, with shy glances exchanged and impromptu conversations. And of course, record stores were where they sought out the latest hits, favorite bands, or spent hours browsing vinyl racks and posters, exploring the booming music world. Conversely, for the 30 to 50-year-old group, the mall was primarily where they actually went to shop. With family and work responsibilities, they tended to visit the mall with clearer purposes, buying clothes, household items, gifts, or other necessities. However, even when the main goal was shopping, they still enjoyed the vibrant atmosphere and convenience the mall offered, sometimes combining shopping with lunch or meeting friends. And surprisingly, even those aged 60 and above found special value in the mall. With its spacious, flat, and climate-controlled environment, the mall became an ideal spot for long walks in the hallways for exercise. This was a safe and comfortable way to maintain health, especially during extreme weather days. They could combine walking with window shopping, having a cup of coffee, or simply enjoying the general community atmosphere. This once again affirmed that 70s malls were not just shopping centers, but multifunctional community spaces, serving all needs and all ages. What special memories do you have of hanging out at the mall when you were young? Share your stories and unforgettable memories in the comments. Fashion and iconic styles at the mall. The 70s were an era where creativity and individuality in fashion exploded, and the mall was the grand stage to showcase these trends. This was a boom period for creative and bold fashion styles, where people expressed themselves through colorful and unique clothing choices. Outfits with vibrant patterns, wide bell-bottoms, and bohemian-style shirts became unmistakable icons of this era. The diversity in styles created a lively and colorful fashion tapestry where everyone could find their own unique look. Let's take a look at the dominant trends often seen at the mall in the 70s. First, and perhaps most iconic, were bell-bottom jeans. These weren't just a casual fashion choice, but a bold statement of freedom and style. With legs flaring out from the knee down, bell-bottoms created a relaxed and striking silhouette. They were often paired with platform shoes, adding height and a confident swagger. To complete this look, people often chose colorful tie-dye shirts with psychedelic swirling patterns, or fringe suede vests, reminiscent of hippie and rock and roll styles. Bell-bottoms were a must-have item in the wardrobe of anyone wanting to embody 70s chic. Next was the hairstyle almost everyone wanted: feathered hair. This style was the look everyone wanted to rock, regardless of gender, from dashing young men to fashionable girls. Characterized by soft, expertly layered locks that flipped out around the face, creating a voluminous and airy feel like feathers. This hairstyle often required a blow dryer and curlers, demanding some effort but resulting in an incredibly charming and elegant look, becoming an indelible mark of the 70s. Tube tops were also another defining fashion trend, clearly expressing the free-spirited, bold attitude of the era. These strapless, stretchy tops were often made from elastic fabric, hugging the body, flattering the figure, and providing a comfortable, dynamic feel. Tube tops were frequently paired with high-waisted shorts or bell-bottoms, creating a youthful and captivating overall look, especially popular for mall outings or outdoor parties. Never out of style, the combination of denim jackets and skinny jeans brought a distinct, strong, and enduring personality. Denim was a popular and beloved material, embodying youthfulness and a rugged edge. Denim jackets were often adorned with patches, badges, or embroidery, while skinny jeans flattered the figure and brought dynamism to the wearer. Finally, patterned shirts and wide-leg pants brought another stylish and free-spirited look. Shirts with geometric, floral, or abstract colorful patterns, combined with soft, wide-leg fabric pants, created an elegant yet very individualistic style, suitable for both streetwear and office settings. Loving the memories? Let us know by typing yes in the comments. We're just getting started. Famous malls and the shift to the 1980s. Throughout the 70s, many malls became iconic landmarks, shaping the retail and social landscape across America and Canada. These names were not just physical structures, but vivid memories, intertwined with the lives of millions. We've already mentioned Southdale Mall in Edina, Minnesota, not only a pioneering mall, but also a model for future projects. It was America's first and oldest enclosed air-conditioned mall, a symbol of innovation. Alongside it, a host of other centers also left deep impressions on the public, such as Shepherd Mall in Oklahoma, Lincoln Mall in Madison, and Charlotte Town Mall, each with its own unique characteristics. Some other malls also stood out with unique highlights. For example, Pearl Street Mall in Boulder, Colorado, opened in 1977, became an outdoor pedestrian shopping area with a strong community feel. Fiesta Mall in Mesa, Arizona, appearing around 1979, was also an example of the expansion of malls in developing regions. Or the J.C. Penney store at Orange Fair Shopping Center in Fullerton, California in the late 70s was a familiar shopping destination. The Northeast also boasted powerful malls like Menlo Park Mall in Edison, New Jersey. In Canada, Eaton Centre in Toronto, opened in 1977, remains very successful to this day, showing the durability of good design. Columbia Mall in Columbia, Maryland, built in 1973, is another example of a multifunctional mall. The southern U.S. also had Cumberland Mall in Smyrna, Georgia, in the early 70s, and Moorestown Mall in Moorestown, New Jersey, as well as Sunshine Mall in Clearwater, Florida, all important destinations in their regions. Large department stores also played a significant role, such as Macy's department store at Staten Island Mall in the 70s, or J.C. Penney at Tacoma Mall in Tacoma, Washington in the mid-70s. These weren't just stores, but a part of the overall shopping experience. The Midwest also saw strong development of malls, especially in Michigan with Westwood Mall, Lansing Mall, Meridian Mall, and Briarwood Mall. Additionally, Randhurst Mall, located in suburban northwest Chicago, is recognized as one of the first enclosed malls in the area, laying the groundwork for later development. Woodfield Mall in Illinois, famous as the largest in Illinois, is an example of the scale and ambition of commercial projects. In the late 70s, Water Tower Place on Michigan Avenue was an impressive structure with 8 floors and luxurious glass elevators, offering a unique shopping and entertainment experience in the city center. And finally, Lloyd Center in Portland, Oregon, although opened in the late 60s, was still one of the first covered malls on the West Coast, continuing to thrive in the 70s. These names are not just buildings, but cultural landmarks, holding countless stories and memories of a generation. However, like all eras, the 70s mall experience couldn't last forever. Life is always in motion, and change is inevitable. As the 70s closed and we stepped into a new era, malls also began a profound transformation. The distinctive architectural and interior features of the 70s were rapidly replaced. The darker wood and warm earth tones of the 70s gradually gave way to a new style, with chrome and colorful neon lights in the 80s. This shift wasn't just about color, but also about feel, from cozy, natural to more modern, sleek, and industrial. The brown cobblestone floors with their outdoor feel were replaced by new, shiny floor tiles, creating a cleaner, more luxurious, and modern aesthetic. The large red-carpeted ramps, characteristic of many 70s malls, were also replaced by luxurious glass elevators, offering convenience and a striking architectural highlight, allowing customers to view the entire mall as they moved. The change wasn't just superficial. As the 70s ended, the experimental phase of American malls also concluded. Their role became clearly defined and more focused, becoming the center of consumer culture. While the 70s still maintained a balance between community and commerce, the 80s pushed the consumer function to the forefront. Malls became engines driving shopping, with aggressive marketing campaigns, the emergence of large brands, and a focus on sales. And indeed, the 80s were the golden age of shopping malls in America. They grew at a dizzying pace, becoming symbols of economic prosperity and a consumer lifestyle. Although the 80s reshaped malls in a different way, there's no denying that the foundation and community spirit built in the 70s contributed to that brilliant success. This transition marked a new chapter in retail history, but the memory of 70s malls will always be a special highlight, a unique era that later generations cannot fully experience again. Do you think 70s malls created a unique impression that later generations can't experience? Share your thoughts on the values we've lost, or what we can still learn from the mall model of that era. We hope you've had a meaningful trip through the years gone by, discovering fascinating and surprising things about our grandparents' daily lives. If you love this journey, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the Back to Yesterday channel, and share this video with your loved ones to relive these wonderful memories together. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on our next trip back in time.